Friends, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt a restless stirring in your soul, a quiet voice that whispers there's a higher path, a greater calling for your life? Imagine standing on a stage, not just any stage, but the grand stage of existence, knowing deep down that you're here for a purpose bigger than yourself. That sense of calling, that yearning to align with something beyond our own desires, is what I want to talk to you about today. Because trust me, life gets complicated, life gets messy, and sometimes the only compass that leads us out of the chaos is our reverence for God's will. I know it can be daunting. The very idea of surrendering ourselves to a higher plan might sound like stepping into the unknown without a flashlight. And let's be honest, that can be scary. We humans crave certainty. We want to know what happens next. We want a clear roadmap. But here's the truth. When we cultivate deep reverence, when we humble ourselves to listen, to trust, and to act on divine guidance, we transform not just our personal journey, but the lives of those around us. It's not just about avoiding wrong turns. It's about walking with courage, faith, and integrity on the path we were meant to tread. I see you in the crowd, nodding, maybe thinking about where you are right now. Some of you feel a pull, a nudging, to make a difficult decision, to let go of an old grudge, or to step up and serve in ways you've never dared before. Others might be wondering if any of this even applies to you because you feel lost, broken, or overwhelmed by life's mounting pressures. Let me assure you, no matter where you are, whether you're a young person grappling with new responsibilities or a parent trying to balance work, love, and the frantic pace of modern family life, reverence for God's will can be your anchor. It can be the quiet force that settles your fears and guides your hand. When I say reverence, I'm talking about genuine awe, a profound respect that doesn't reduce God's presence to a casual afterthought. We're not talking about a distant deity you merely acknowledge on Sundays or special holidays. We're talking about that daily, moment-by-moment awareness that there is a will higher than our own. It's the awareness that each breath is a gift, that every morning the sun rises with new possibilities, and that we're never truly alone in our struggles. But let's face the problem head on. In a world that moves so fast, where success is often measured by the numbers in your bank account or the followers on your social media, it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters. We chase our own will. We chase approval. We chase shortcuts to happiness, hoping to fill the emptiness inside with temporary fixes. That constant chase can leave us exhausted, anxious, and detached from what we're really meant to do, be vessels of compassion, love, and service. So the question becomes, how do we shift our hearts, our perspectives, our daily actions, so that they align with the divine plan? How do we cultivate a reverence that's not just a word, but a living, breathing way of life? This matters because the moment we lose reverence for God's will, we lose our sense of direction. We start letting ego lead the way, making decisions that hurt ourselves and those around us. We drift aimlessly through relationships, careers, and opportunities that fail to nourish our spirit. And that vacuum of purpose, of not knowing or honoring the reason we're here, can become a silent torment. But I believe we don't have to live that way. We can choose another path, one that resonates with grace and intention. Today I want to share with you 4 simple methods, 4 practical ways to nurture that reverence and let it shape everything you do. Because reverence isn't some lofty ideal reserved for saints or sages. It's an ever-present choice you and I can make right here, right now. So let's explore these methods together, shall we? Let's dive into what it means to cultivate an open, humble heart that bows to something greater than ourselves. And as I walk you through these points, I hope you'll see how each method can be woven into your life. Whatever your story, whatever your struggles, open your heart, take a breath, and let's begin. The first thing I want you to remember is this. To revere God's will is to open a door that leads to wisdom, clarity, and a sense of peace that can't be bought or earned by human effort alone. Let's walk through that door together, step by step. Now the question is, are you ready to discover how? You see, that's what this moment is about. It's about saying yes, not to me, not to another person, but to the quiet voice inside that says there's more to living than just surviving. There's more than chasing fleeting thrills. There's more than fueling our egos. There's a divine direction waiting for each one of us, calling us to be our best selves for the sake of a broken world that desperately needs hope. Let's say yes. Together, let's explore these 4 simple methods that can help us cultivate a lasting, unshakable reverence for God's will in our lives. First, embrace the power of surrender. We can't revere God's will unless we're willing to set our own aside, at least long enough to listen. That's the gateway. That's the first step. But how do we do it? Let me show you. And the journey begins right here, right now. Listen closely. Feel that stirring in your heart. Let it expand. Let it guide you. Because once you open your spirit to God's leading, you'll discover the incredible truth. You've never been more free. Let's dive deeper. Let's see how this one shift can transform every waking moment. Come with me. Let's go. I want to start with method 1. When we talk about cultivating reverence, the very first method that stands out is the power of genuine surrender. Surrender isn't about giving up. It isn't weakness. It's the courageous act of saying, I don't have all the answers. I need guidance. That's tough for many of us because our natural instinct is to tighten our grip, to control every variable, to plan every detail. Yet real reverence requires loosening our grip on our own agenda so we can be led by a higher authority. Without this posture, we're like sailors at sea, refusing to adjust our sails despite the changing winds, and then wondering why we never reach the shore we're aiming for. Think about a young college graduate who spent years visualizing her dream job. She aces every exam, builds her resume, and networks tirelessly. Then, at the final interview, something just doesn't feel right. Everything on paper is perfect, but there's an unease in her gut. She's got 2 choices. Push ahead, ignoring the nudge in her spirit, or pause and sincerely ask, God, is this your path for me? That single moment of surrender, that willingness to let God's guidance override her own, might change everything. If she ignores the prompting, she may land a job that looks impressive, but leaves her heart heavy. If she listens, truly listens, she might discover an alternate route she never considered. That's the difference between forging ahead blindly and bowing in reverence to divine direction. It's a humble stance that can literally change the trajectory of our lives. The negative consequences of ignoring that guidance often show up in subtle ways. We feel drained, unfulfilled, or perpetually restless. We pour our energy into endeavors that pay the bills or feed our ego, but neglect the soul. We might achieve outward success, but inside something feels incomplete. Surrender, on the other hand, opens us to the bigger picture. One where every twist, every turn, and every pause can carry profound meaning. How do we practice this surrender in a practical sense? We start by creating space in our daily routine for silence, for prayer, for reflection. That means giving ourselves permission to slow down, to unplug from the noise, and to genuinely ask God, what would you have me do? This might sound simple, but it's deeply transformative. You can begin by setting aside 5 minutes each morning. Sit quietly, breathe, listen without an agenda. This small act of surrender can recalibrate your entire day. If we can do that consistently, our hearts become more sensitive to divine nudges, more open to signs and confirmations. And in that openness, we learn to trust that God's will is not here to break us, but to shape us. A friend of mine once told me about her family's decision to uproot their comfortable suburban life and move across the country to take care of an ailing grandparent. On the surface, it looked like a setback, downgrading their house, leaving secure jobs. But they felt the call was clear. When I asked her how she found the courage, she said, every time fear rose up, I reminded myself that obeying God's plan is the safest place I can be. That's surrender in action. And guess what? They discovered unexpected blessings, new friendships, deeper family bonds, and a sense of purpose that overshadowed the fear of starting over. That's the fruit of reverence. That's the beauty of relinquishing the tight-fisted control we think we need. Now, if we don't surrender, if we let our pride or fear run the show, we risk missing out on these blessings. We can't cultivate reverence if we're busy trying to strong-arm life into our limited vision. So I challenge you to examine where in your life you might be resisting. What doors is God trying to open for you that you're afraid to walk through? If you find one, consider letting go of the need to control the outcome. Then watch for how the path unfolds differently than you ever expected. This method, this willingness to step aside and let God lead, creates a foundation. It's like clearing debris off a runway so a plane can take off smoothly. If we don't clear it, we keep bumping along, never truly lifting into the sky. So as you walk out these doors later, remember that surrender isn't a one-time event. It's a daily posture. It's a softening of the heart that says, not my will, but yours. And once you learn to do that, you'll be ready for the next step toward deep reverence for God's. Let's move to method 2. Now we come to something that sounds so simple yet requires our unwavering attention. Embracing faith in our daily actions. Faith is not just a word, it's a lifeline. Faith is what gets us out of bed when doubts scream at us to stay under the covers. Faith is what keeps a smile on our face when the world around us is frowning. Faith doesn't deny reality. It redefines it by letting us see life through God's promises, not our limitations. So how does this relate to reverence? Let me tell you, when we truly believe that God's will is the best outcome, even when circumstances look bleak, we are actively showing reverence. We are saying, God, I honor you enough to walk by faith, not by sight. But let's get practical. It's one thing to say, have faith, and another to live it. Living faith means aligning our choices with the trust that God is guiding us. That might mean declining a lucrative deal at work because it compromises our ethics. It might mean offering kindness to someone who's given us every reason to turn away. It could be 1,000 little decisions each day that reflect our trust in a bigger plan. Picture a young entrepreneur, fresh out of college, eager to launch a tech startup. She's got ideas, passion, and a few investors knocking on her door. But soon she realizes that some potential backers want her to cut corners. They want her to exploit data in ways she knows aren't right. She stands at a crossroads. Cave in and grab that funding, or stand firm in her convictions. If she's cultivating reverence, if she truly believes God's will is better than any quick payoff, she'll choose the honorable path, even if it means losing a few dollar signs along the way. That's faith in action. That's trust that fulfilling God's purpose trumps short-term profit. Now, if we don't live by faith, we end up living by fear. Fear of missing out, fear of failure, fear of rejection. And fear will strangle reverence faster than anything else. It will have us bowing at the altar of compromise. It will have us lying awake at night, second-guessing every decision, wondering if we're good enough, strong enough, or lucky enough. That kind of life slowly erodes our capacity to respect divine guidance. But faith is the antidote. Faith hushes the voices of fear and says, even if I can't see the full road ahead, I trust the one who does. So how do we develop this faith-driven reverence? Start small. If you're part of a family, bring faith into your shared meals, your nightly prayers, your conversations. If you're a parent, you don't need to be perfect. Show your kids how faith carries you through tough times. Speak hope into their fears and let them see your vulnerability before God. If you're single or living alone, you can still infuse faith into your daily routine. Before sending that important email, pause and pray, God, guide my words. Before stepping into a crucial meeting, whisper, I trust you. These small acts of faith add up, creating an environment in which reverence can flourish. There's a family I know who faced the heartbreaking news that their child had a chronic illness. Rather than letting despair drive them apart, they made a conscious decision to stand on faith. They prayed together every day, involved their close relatives, and clung to every promise of hope they could find. It wasn't a denial of the medical realities. They followed the doctor's advice faithfully, but they never lost sight of the possibility that love, prayer, and trust in God's will could bring light to a dark situation. Over time, they found moments of joy and grace amid the pain, forging stronger relationships not just within their household, but with their neighbors and local community. Their reverence for God's will, shown through daily acts of faith, became a testimony of resilience and love. Now, I'm not saying faith is a magic wand that instantly fixes everything. What I am saying is that genuine reverence is unthinkable without faith. If we're going to hold God's will in awe, we must believe that God is good, that his purposes are wise, and that no matter how bleak the situation seems, a divine blueprint is at work. That belief shapes our decisions, our attitudes, our relationships. It keeps us grounded when life's storms howl around us. It sets us apart from a world that relies solely on human strength, intelligence, and cunning. So, my friends, let us weave faith into the fabric of every moment. Let us hold on to God's promises when everything else seems uncertain. Let us walk forward even if our knees are trembling, because reverence will not blossom in a heart that refuses to trust. And as we cultivate that trust, as we choose to believe, we'll be ready for the next method, one that adds depth and richness to our reverential walk. Let's talk about method 3. Our third approach to cultivating reverence is something we sometimes overlook: nurturing gratitude and humility. Why are these two qualities so powerful? Because gratitude opens our eyes to the blessings we already have, and humility reminds us that we're not the center of the universe. Together, they keep us grounded in reverence. Think about it this way. If surrender is letting go and faith is stepping forward, gratitude and humility are the inner posture that keeps our heart in the right place throughout the journey. Let's start with gratitude. When you wake up in the morning, do you immediately think of everything you lack, or do you thank God for the gift of another day? When you see your family at the breakfast table, is your mind racing with tasks, or do you pause to feel grateful for the warmth and love around you? Gratitude is the lens that transforms the mundane into the miraculous. It shifts our perspective from "I deserve this" to "I'm blessed by this." And once we adopt that mindset, reverence flows naturally. We begin to notice the hand of God in simple blessings: a kind word from a friend, a timely opportunity at work, or even the way the sun breaks through the clouds on a hard day. Humility, on the other hand, helps us remember that we are not God, nor should we pretend to be. We live in a society that praises self-made success and independence. Achievements are pinned to our chests like badges of honor. And that's not necessarily wrong. But when self-reliance becomes an idol, we lose the awe that fuels reverence. A humble heart says, no matter how successful I become, how many accolades I earn, I'm still a traveler on a path guided by a wisdom far beyond my own. Without humility, we slip into arrogance and entitlement, two traits that can snuff out reverence in an instant. Here's a tangible example from the business world. I once met a community leader who ran a thriving nonprofit organization helping underprivileged youth. When I asked him how he stayed motivated, he said, "I remind myself every day that I'm just a steward. This organization is ultimately God's. I'm grateful to be part of it, but it's not mine to hoard or control. My job is to serve faithfully." That attitude of gratitude for the role he played and humility about who truly owned the mission radiated through the entire nonprofit. Volunteers felt respected. Benefactors trusted the leadership's integrity. The youth they served sensed genuine care. And I believe a key reason for this positive culture was the reverence with which this leader approached his calling. Now, what happens if we ignore gratitude and humility? We become blind to the gifts around us. We start fixating on what's missing instead of what's present. We complain, we compare, we covet. That posture leaves little room for revering anything beyond ourselves. Resentment creeps in. Bitterness takes hold. We become so wrapped up in our personal drama or ambition that we forget there's a grander scheme at play, a divine plan that transcends our ego. That's a sure path to discontent and spiritual hollowness. So how do we actively practice gratitude and humility? One way is to keep a daily gratitude journal. Before bed, jot down 3 things you're thankful for. They don't have to be earth-shattering. They can be as simple as, "I had a good laugh with my coworker," or "the weather was beautiful today." Over time, this discipline retrains your mind to see blessings everywhere, and that's fertile ground for reverence. For humility, seek feedback from people you trust. Are there areas where pride has slipped in? Have you taken credit for something that was really God's provision or someone else's effort? A family I know has a humility night once a month. They gather around the table and honestly share one area where they've been tempted to boast or feel entitled. They pray for each other, reminding themselves that everything they have is a gift from above. This might sound extreme, but is a powerful exercise in resetting the heart toward reverence. And let's not forget the young people among us. If you're a teenager or in your early 20s, the world can feel like it's pressuring you to be number one, to grab life by the horns and prove your worth. But consider this: the greatest battles you'll fight are often the ones inside your own heart. Nurturing gratitude and humility gives you armor against self-obsession and despair. It sets you up for a life where reverence for God's will becomes a guiding light, not an afterthought. With that in mind, let's move on to our final method, the one that ties all these threads together. Finally, we arrive at method 4, serving others as an expression of divine will. If you really want to revere God's plan for your life, take a look at how you treat people. Reverence isn't confined to prayer rooms or quiet meditations. It's meant to spill out into our relationships, workplaces, and communities, shaping how we love and lift up those around us. There's a verse I often recall that reminds us faith without action is dead. And in the context of reverence, if we claim to honor God's will but ignore the needs of our neighbors, how genuine is that honor? Service is the living evidence that we've understood a crucial part of God's heart: compassion. Whether it's volunteering at a local shelter, mentoring a student who's struggling, or helping a new coworker settle into the company, serving is like an act of worship. We're basically saying, "God, I see your image in these people. I respect your will by sharing kindness, generosity, and support." This is what transforms reverence from a private sentiment into a lifestyle that impacts the world. Consider a single mother working 2 jobs who still finds time to cook an extra meal for her elderly neighbor, or a group of friends who spend their Saturday mornings cleaning up a local park, creating a safe and beautiful space for the whole community. These actions might seem small in isolation, but together they reflect a deep reverence that goes beyond words. By serving, we're not just following a moral code, we're actively participating in God's redemptive plan for humanity. We become the hands and feet of that plan, living out our reverence with every kind deed. But let's look at the flip side. If we fail to serve, if we live only for ourselves, we are missing out on one of the most rewarding aspects of revering God's will. We end up isolated, chasing personal gain, and often feeling unfulfilled. No matter how successful or comfortable we become, a self-centered existence rarely brings lasting joy. We might temporarily inflate our ego, but we're starving our spirit. Eventually, we notice a void that achievements and accolades can't fill. Service is what expands our perspective, helps us see the bigger picture, and keeps our hearts soft. How do we make serving a practical part of our lives? Start close to home. Ask your family, how can I support you today? Listen to your partner's burdens, help your kids with their chores, or call a parent who lives far away to check in. Then broaden your circle. Join community outreach programs, engage in meaningful charity work, or simply take the initiative at your job to mentor someone struggling in a new role. These acts of service need not be grand or newsworthy, they just need to be done from a heart that recognizes God's desire for us to love one another. A local church in my town decided to partner with a small business to host monthly community events. They offered free workshops, job training, and mentoring for unemployed folks. The business saw it as a great public relations opportunity, but the church saw it as a chance to live out reverence through service. Over time, the business owners were so moved by the positive outcomes and the genuine care that they, too, began to shift their perspective. They realized the events weren't just a marketing strategy. They were an avenue to uplift people in need. That's the ripple effect of serving in reverence. It can change hearts, break down walls, and bring light into dark places. Once we serve regularly, our inner posture changes. We become more receptive to God's nudges, more sensitive to the struggles of others, and more convinced that the world is bigger than our personal wants and ambitions. Our reverence grows deeper because we see firsthand how God's love flows through our hands into someone else's life. And that experience humbles us, reminding us that we are but instruments in a grander symphony. Friends, these 4 methods, surrender, faith in daily actions, gratitude and humility, and serving others, aren't just theoretical concepts. They are practical gateways to a life steeped in awe and respect for God's will. If you find yourself skeptical or unsure, let me encourage you. Start with one method and watch how it transforms your heart. Then add another. Over time, the synergy of all 4 will create a tapestry of reverence that colors every corner of your life. That's what awaits us if we choose this path. And I believe you're ready to make that choice. So, as we draw everything together, let's take a deep breath and look back at where we've been. We began by recognizing that longing deep within us, the subtle voice that calls us towards something higher. We acknowledged how easy it is to drift off course when we rely on our own limited will or succumb to the relentless demands of a busy, success-driven society. Then we explored 4 methods that can help us realign: surrender, living by faith, nurturing gratitude and humility, and finally serving others as an act of divine reverence. Each of these methods has a powerful role to play. Surrender is where we first quiet our ego and say, God, have your way. Faith is the choice to trust day by day that God's direction is good, even when circumstances shake our confidence. Gratitude and humility shift our perspective from self-centered to God-centered, opening our hearts to see life as a gift, not an entitlement. And service is the living proof that reverence is not merely an internal feeling, but an outward expression of love, compassion, and unity. Together, these 4 simple methods form a roadmap, leading us away from the pitfalls of ego, fear, and hopelessness, and guiding us toward a life of purpose, peace, and contagious hope. They remind us that reverence is not a stiff, formal exercise, but a joyful posture, an openness to the mystery and majesty of a God who knows and loves us infinitely more than we could imagine. Now, how do we weave all of this into our daily grind? It's not about perfection. It's not about never doubting or never stumbling. It's about consistently coming back to these pillars. When you feel overwhelmed by stress, pause and remember to surrender. When uncertainty clouds your path, choose faith over fear. When envy or pride starts whispering in your ear, ground yourself in gratitude and humility. And when you sense you're getting wrapped up in your own bubble, go out and serve someone. Change a life. Brighten a face. Lift a burden. These are the habits that keep reverence alive in our hearts. But let's not fool ourselves. This journey demands courage. True reverence for God's will often take you down roads you didn't plan, prompt you to extend grace where you didn't want to, and ask you to keep believing when you'd rather give up. It will challenge your assumptions, push you beyond your comfort zone, and refine your character in the fires of adversity. Yet, in every trial, you will discover a deeper strength and a more profound peace than anything you could manufacture on your own. I want to leave you with a call to action. Don't just let these words float in the air for a moment and then drift away. Choose one method, just one, today, and start applying it. Maybe you'll set aside 5 minutes each morning for quiet surrender. Maybe you'll write down a faith declaration and tape it to your bathroom mirror. Maybe you'll start a gratitude journal or volunteer for that charity event you've been putting off. Take one tangible step and then another. Watch how your internal posture changes, how new opportunities for growth and blessing begin to appear. Because reverence is not a passive state, it's an active journey. And every journey begins with a single step. Yet, as you step forward, remember you're not alone. The same God who calls you is the God who equips you. The same God who nudges you towards surrender will catch you if you fall. The same God who invites you to serve will flood your heart with love that overflows into every act of kindness. You are part of a grand unfolding story, and when you live in reverence, you align your chapter with the author's beautiful narrative. That's where real meaning lies. That's where your life becomes a testament of hope, courage, and transformation. So I say to you, stand tall in your decision to honor God's will. Let every choice, every breath, every interaction be an echo of that reverence. Let it infuse your laughter and your tears, your triumphs and your trials, your quiet moments and your public platforms. And when doubt creeps in, as it sometimes will, stand firm in the knowledge that you have a bigger purpose guiding you, a love that will not let you go. Now picture a world where more of us took these methods seriously, where young graduates dared to follow divine nudges instead of mere career prospects, where families stayed united through faith instead of fracturing under pressure, where communities collaborated in service rather than competing in selfish pursuits, and where every act of gratitude and humility built bridges instead of walls. That's a world of reverence, a world that reflects the heart of God more vividly. And you can be part of making that vision a reality. As I close, I want you to feel the weight of this moment, the potential for a new beginning, the invitation to a journey that doesn't just add to your life, but transforms it from the inside out. Let these words sink in, let them resonate in your spirit, and let them propel you forward. Because if there's one thing I'm certain of, it's that we're all here for a reason far greater. And when we choose reverence, when we choose to surrender, to walk by faith, to remain thankful and humble, and to serve boldly, we're not just living our own story, We're living a story that ripples out into eternity. So I urge you, step out in faith. Open your hands and surrender. Keep your heart full of gratitude. Bow your head in humility and reach out to serve whenever you can. Do it with love. Do it with joy. Do it as an act of worship. In doing so, you'll discover that reverence for God's will is not some distant concept. It's the very pulse of a life well lived, the heartbeat of a soul in harmony with its Creator, and the power that lifts us beyond our limitations into a destiny we never dreamed possible. Yes, you can stand in awe of God's will. Yes, you can cultivate a reverence that changes everything. And yes, you can begin right now, right this very moment, by saying, "Here I am, Lord. Lead me. The door is open. The invitation stands." Take that first step and never look back. God bless you, and may His perfect will guide you every day of your life.